Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're going all the way back,
Yeah.
all the way back to the book of Proverbs.
No.
Not the whole thing, just the first 35 verses.
Right.
Now, you might be thinking, ancient Proverbs, what can those teach me about crushing it in the 21st century? But trust me on this one.
Mm-hmm.
These verses are packed with, surprisingly relevant insights about building a life that's not just successful,
Right.
but truly fulfilling.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these verses written thousands of years ago still speak to us today.
Yeah.
They lay out a path
Mm.
to what they call length of days,
Okay.
years of life and peace.
Wow.
It's like a roadmap to a life really well lived.
I like that. And what's cool is they
Yeah.
don't just list rules, They paint a picture of the kind of person you become when you embrace these principles.
Absolutely.
It's about cultivating virtues like steadfast love, faithfulness, humility,
Yeah.
all these qualities that contribute to not just our external success, but also our internal well-being.
Yeah, and notice the language it talks about. Binding these virtues around your neck, writing them on the tablet of your heart.
Oh, wow.
This isn't about ticking boxes.
Okay.
It's about these principles becoming so ingrained in us that they guide our every action and reaction.
So it's like building a foundation
Yeah.
for a life that's solid, both internally and
Uh-huh.
externally. And speaking of foundations,
Yeah.
the text goes on to talk about wisdom
Okay. Yeah.
as the cornerstone.
Right.
It's even described as more valuable than silver, gold, or jewels.
I know. What's striking is the imagery used.
Yeah.
Wisdom isn't just presented with riches and honor.
Right.
It's described as holding them,
Oh,
as if they are natural outcomes of a life lived wisely.
interesting.
It suggests a shift in perspective.
Okay.
Instead of chasing success for its own sake,
Yeah.
we cultivate wisdom, trusting that success will follow.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. And
Yeah.
it gets even deeper. It's not just about material wealth. The text also talks about wisdom leading to pleasantness and peace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a growing body of research today showing the connection between wisdom, emotional regulation,
Oh, wow.
and a sense of inner peace.
That's amazing.
It's like the ancient writers understood intuitively what science is now proving.
Yeah.
Wisdom isn't just about knowing things. It's about developing a way of being in the world that leads to greater fulfillment and well-being.
Yeah.
So how do we actually bring this ancient wisdom into our modern lives? One verse that really jumped out at me was verse 6. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths.
This is where things get interesting. For those who subscribe to a specific faith, this might be a straightforward call to trust in a higher power.
Right.
But even for those who approach it from a more secular perspective,
Yeah.
there's a powerful message here.
You mean like recognizing that we're part of something
Exactly.
bigger than ourselves? That our choices...
Have ripple effects beyond our immediate concerns.
Precisely. It's a call to mindfulness, to considering the long-term consequences of our actions. In a world obsessed with instant gratification,
Oh, yeah.
this verse is a reminder to pause, reflect, and make choices that align with a larger purpose.
That resonates
Yeah.
so much with me. It's like taking a step back from the daily grind and asking,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of impact do I want to have? What legacy am I building?
And building on this idea of acknowledging a higher power,
Okay.
the text then explores a fascinating concept, honoring that power with your wealth.
Yeah, that one really stood out to me too. I mean, what does that look like in practice, especially in today's world?
Well, philanthropy is certainly one way to interpret it.
Okay.
Throughout history, different cultures and religions have emphasized the importance of giving back to the community,
Right.
of using one's resources to support those in need.
It's like recognizing that wealth isn't just for personal gain.
Yeah,
It carries a responsibility to make a positive impact
absolutely.
on the world.
And that brings us to a crucial point that's often overlooked,
Okay.
the idea of ethical wealth creation. It's not enough to simply give money away.
Right.
The text seems to suggest that the way we acquire wealth matters as much as how we spend it.
So it's not just about charity.
Yeah.
It's about aligning our financial pursuits with our values, about building businesses that benefit society as a whole.
Exactly. This idea of ethical wealth creation could be seen as a precursor to modern concepts
Oh, wow.
like conscious capitalism or socially responsible investing.
Interesting.
It's about recognizing that our financial choices have moral implications.
This is blowing my mind. I never thought about these verses in such a practical way.
And there's more. Verse 12 adds another layer to this idea of living a principled life. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline and do not resent his rebuke.
Okay, but how does discipline fit into this bigger picture of
Yeah.
wisdom and success? It sounds a little unpleasant.
Well, think of it this way. Discipline, even though it may feel uncomfortable in the moment, is often the key to achieving our goals.
Like an athlete who pushes through grueling training to win a championship, or an artist who spends countless hours honing their craft.
Yes. Discipline, as presented in this verse,
Okay.
isn't about punishment.
Mm,
It's about embracing the challenges and sacrifices that come with pursuing excellence.
right.
It's about understanding that true growth requires us to push beyond our comfort zones.
It's about delaying gratification, making tough choices in the present for a better future.
Exactly. And it's not just about personal growth. This concept of discipline also applies to our relationships with others.
Yeah.
Verses 27-30 offer some powerful insights into how we interact with those around us.
Oh, yeah. These verses are all about being a good neighbor, right?
Mm,
Being generous, honest, avoiding conflict.
exactly. It's fascinating how the text links these seemingly small everyday actions to the larger concept of wisdom. It's saying that true wisdom isn't just about abstract ideas. It's about how we show up in the world, how we treat others, how we contribute to our community.
So it's about living our values in concrete, tangible ways. Not just thinking about being a good person, but actually being one.
Precisely. And this idea of building strong communities connects to another key theme that runs throughout these verses,
Okay.
the contrast between wisdom and folly.
Yeah, there's some pretty stark language in there about what happens to those who choose the devious path. It talks about abomination, curses, disgrace. It's not messing around.
Powerful imagery, isn't it?
Yeah?
And it speaks to the lasting consequences of our choices. The text seems to suggest that choosing the path of wisdom leads not only to personal fulfillment,
Right.
but also to a life that's honored and respected by others.
Whereas those who choose the path of folly end up isolated, alienated, ultimately reaping what they've sown.
Exactly. And the closing line of this section drives home this point with incredible force.
Okay.
The wise will inherit honor, but fools get disgrace.
It's like a final reminder that the choices we make today have ripple effects that extend far beyond the present moment. They shape our legacy, how we're remembered, the impact we leave on the world.
And that brings us back to you, the listener. If wisdom is truly this valuable, where might you be neglecting it in your own life? Are there areas where you're prioritizing short-term gains over long-term fulfillment? Are there relationships that need mending? Are there ways you could be contributing more to your community?
Those are some big questions,
Yeah.
but I think they're important ones to ask ourselves. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day to lose sight of the bigger picture.
It is. But the beauty of these ancient proverbs is that they offer timeless guidance,
Yeah.
a framework for living a life that's both successful and meaningful.
It's like they're saying, hey, we've been there, we've seen this, here's a path that leads to a good life. And it's up to us to take those insights and apply them to our own unique circumstances.
Exactly. And I think that one of the most powerful takeaways from these verses is that wisdom isn't some elusive quality reserved for a select few. It's a journey we can all embark on one step at a time.
So what's one small step you could take today to prioritize seeking wisdom? Could it be picking up a book, having a conversation with someone you admire, or simply taking some time for quiet reflection?
It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It's about cultivating a mindset of continuous learning, of seeking out knowledge and understanding.
It's about being open to new perspectives, to challenging our own assumptions, to growing as individuals.
And I think that's a beautiful message to leave our listeners with. The pursuit of wisdom isn't about reaching some final destination.
Yeah.
It's about the journey itself, the continuous process of learning, growing, and becoming the best versions of ourselves.
And that's something we can all strive for no matter where we are on our journey. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the book of Proverbs, I want to leave you with a sense of hope and possibility. These ancient teachings aren't just dusty relics of the past.
Right.
They offer timeless insights that can help us navigate the complexities of modern life.
And as we've seen, they're surprisingly relevant to the challenges and opportunities we face today. From building strong relationships to making ethical financial decisions, these verses offer a blueprint for creating a life that's not just successful, but truly fulfilling.
It's about tapping into the wellspring of wisdom that's available to us all. And remember, even small steps taken consistently can lead to significant growth and transformation.
So keep seeking, keep learning, and keep embracing the wisdom that's all around you.
I love that. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Indeed. It's
Uh-huh.
been a pleasure exploring these timeless insights with you and our listener.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep diving deep. As we've been talking,
Yeah.
I keep coming back to this idea of wisdom as a journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about knowing the right answers, it's about developing a certain way of
Right.
being in the world, a
Absolutely.
way of approaching challenges and making decisions.
That's such a key insight.
Yeah.
And I think the book of Proverbs really highlights this idea through its use of vivid metaphors and contrasting characters. Remember those stark descriptions of the consequences of folly. It's like the text is saying, look, there's a clear path to a good life, but there are also pitfalls to avoid.
It's like those old choose your own adventure books where every decision
Oh, yeah.
leads you down a different path. But instead of a fictional story,
Right.
this is about crafting the narrative of our own lives.
Exactly. And the choices we make, both big and small, determine the direction our story takes. It's about cultivating discernment, that ability to distinguish between wise and unwise actions,
Yeah.
between paths that lead to flourishing and those that lead to ruin.
So it's not just about knowing what's right or wrong in some abstract sense. It's about developing the wisdom to make the right choices in the messy, complex reality of our lives.
And that brings us back to the listener. If we think about this idea of wisdom as a journey, where are you on that path?
Yeah.
What are your strengths? What are your blind spots? What are some areas where you could cultivate greater discernment?
It's like taking a personal inventory of our wisdom toolkit. Do we have the right tools for the challenges we're facing? Are we using those tools effectively? Are there any tools we need to add or sharpen?
I love that analogy. And I think the book of Proverbs offers a wealth of tools for that toolkit. It's about cultivating virtues like humility, patience, generosity, self-control, qualities that help us navigate the ups and downs of life with greater grace and resilience.
It's about building a strong inner compass
Right.
that guides us toward wise choices, even when the path ahead is unclear.
Exactly. And remember, the journey of wisdom isn't a solo endeavor. We learn from others,
Uh-huh.
from their successes and failures,
Right.
from their insights and experiences. Who are the wise people in your life? What can you learn from them?
That's such a good reminder. We don't have to figure it all out on our own. We can seek out mentors, learn from role models, find inspiration in the stories of those who have walked the path before us.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into the book of Proverbs, I think that's a perfect message to leave our listeners with. The pursuit of wisdom is a lifelong adventure full of twists and turns, challenges and rewards.
But it's a journey worth taking, because ultimately, as those ancient proverbs remind us, wisdom leads not only to a successful life, but to a life that's truly rich, meaningful, and fulfilling.
And who knows what incredible discoveries you might make along the way.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking wisdom.